If you are looking for an interesting way to improve your picking technique, or at the very least give it a good wake-up call, this video is for you. We're going to take a look at a very simple idea that is not so simple to execute, and that idea is this: give your pick a flip. Let's check it out. So as I mentioned, the idea here is actually very simple, and you can apply it to pretty much anything that you already do picking-wise. Like, let's say, for example, take any exercise that you already know, or a scale, or part of a riff, or anything at all. And if you start that particular thing with a downstroke, then the concept here is you're going to start it with an upstroke instead, and then continue to follow through with the alternate picking paradigm of, instead of down, up forever, it'll be up, down, up, down. Again, sounds very simple, but when you actually try it for the first time, don't be surprised if it's a complete disaster, because you're not used to a few things. You're not going to be used to not only starting with an upstroke, but keep in mind too that your accents, your natural notes that you would normally pick harder, are also going to be done most likely now on upstrokes as opposed to downstrokes, which in a typical fashion they would generally be downstrokes. Give an example. If you're playing just a straight scale, let's say A major, right, if I start that on a downstroke, I'm accenting every fourth note, or I'm picking it a little harder. Down, down. When I go to flip that and do it starting on an upstroke and make all the up picks harder, yeah, I can definitely feel the difference. There's a bit of resistance there. You could do this with any shorter lick at all as well. I like doing it with pieces of music, or at least fragments of pieces of music. There's a flute piece that I like to play that begins with a little part that goes like this. Right, that's the first couple of bars. Try doing that with an upstroke, and all of a sudden things get returned to planet slow for a bit, because I have to think about it. Interestingly, some string crosses become easier than others. So it's an interesting catch-22 here. When you flip your picking, certain things will definitely be more difficult, no doubt, because you're basically starting to run on the opposite foot than what you normally would. It's going to feel a little weird until you get going. The other thing is that any particular string cross, whether that's inside or outside, that you find is difficult for you, when you flip your picking, you may discover that those particular instances where you would run into that string cross now feel easier because they're the opposite string cross. And likewise, any string cross you find easier may now feel difficult. So overall, this is a great exercise to go through with anything at all, because it's going to force you to strengthen your weakest aspects of picking. And also, it'll get you used to the idea that when you actually play music, you're not always going to run into a favored string crossing situation when you're playing real music. But what I'm going to do now, I'm going to show you a couple of specific things that you can do. I'm going to zoom in here and give you a closer look at the fretboard to show you what I'm doing and give you an example of what I would like to do as exercises for this. Let's check it out. Now, aside from taking exercises or licks or anything that you already know and just flipping the picking, there's another way that you can conceive of licks and ideas that involve the same thing picking-wise, or have that same picking idea built into it. And one thing you could do is look for repetitive odd number of note groupings. So for example, I'm going to take a little lick here that I came up with years ago, and it's basically 5 repeating notes. Right? Based in A minor. Right? So we've got 12 on the 5th string, which will be A. Going over to 9 on the 3rd string, which is E. I'm going to hit C and D on the 4th string, 10 and 12. And then my last and 5th note will be A on the 2nd string, 10th fret. So it's almost just an A minor arpeggio with an additional D thrown in there, right there. But as a 5-note grouping, because it's an odd number of notes and we're dealing with an even number of pick strokes, you're going to get a phenomenon of beginning on a downstroke for round 1, but also ending on a downstroke for round 1. Which means, if you're strictly alternate picking, you can see where this is going, you're going to begin the next round on an up, because you're not allowed to do double downs or double ups when you alternate pick. It has to be down, up, consecutively all the way. So with an odd number of notes, this phenomenon of flipping your picking happens alternately, no pun intended. So down, up, down, up. And the goal here is to make them both sound and feel the same. Right? In other words, the accent should be in the same spot every time. Despite the fact that your picking will be different every single time that you do it. If you want to counteract that a little bit or hear something different, you can take this idea and move it down to reflect a G major, where you would have 10 on the 5th string giving you a G, 7 on the 3rd string giving you a D. On the D string, the 4th string, we'll have 9 and 10, which will give you B and C, and then an octave G on the 2nd string, 8th fret. Now you can play around with the same idea, the same note groupings, just reflecting 2 different chords, A minor. I like doing it 4 times, down to G. You can expand upon it and come up with your own progression here. You just need a simple idea and a couple of spots to play it so your ears get to hear something different every now and then, but really focus on the picking of that, and that's a really good one to get used to. Another one that I stumbled upon a little while ago is actually an interesting little scale-based idea where it created an odd number of notes simply due to the fact that I throw in a little rhythmic burst in the middle of the lick. Right there. So what I'm doing here, I'm in the key of E. I'm playing G sharp, A, B. So 6, 7, 9 all on the 4th string. 6 on the 3rd string giving me C sharp. And those would be played as 16th notes, so 1 E and a. But then here I do a little 16th note triplet of E, D, C, E, D sharp, and C sharp, or 9, 8, 6 on the 3rd string. So they're going to be faster than the others. But then I bring it back to 9 and 7 on the 4th string, or B and A, and we come back to 16th notes. So 4 16th notes, a 16th note triplet, and then 2 16s at the end. Now, it all fits rhythmically even. It only lasts for 2 beats, so you do it 2 times in a row and you've got a bar of 4/4. Very odd, or sorry, very even timing here. But if you take a look at the number of notes that you play in this, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, you get 9, an odd number. So you're still getting that same phenomenon of flipping the picking every time that you go to repeat it. First one down on a down, next one on an up. Now, the real trick here is, for me, is actually the little fast burst part there. First time is on a downstroke, and that feels the most natural. Not only that, but I'm accenting the first note of that burst. On the up start, it's going to be an upstroke that initiates that fast part and still has to maintain the accent. So again, it's sort of like trying to run, but starting on the opposite foot that you would normally do so, but try to be smooth with it, right? That's going to take a little work. So that's another cool idea there. Again, you can take either an odd number of notes and keep it at a steady rhythm, or you can inject maybe a little bit of a burst where if you do it right, you'll end up with an odd number of notes and an even number of beats. And either way, you're going to end up with some pretty pick twisting things to work on that will, again, it'll feel like you're really working your picking hand, meaning that when you go back to playing things that you normally would play, it's going to feel a lot easier because you just did something that was so awkward for a while that you're now coming home. So I definitely recommend both of those ideas. If you have any questions about anything or thoughts, by all means, hit me up in the comments and I would be happy to answer them. Have a good one.